Sup y'all, it's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I want to talk to you guys about legendary items in Legion. Again. Now, the reason for that is because Blizzard put out a little bit more information and clarification on how they're going to work. Now, before I get into the video too much, I do want to say a couple of things. One thing is that it's raining outside, so if you hear any background noise, it's probably rain. But anyway, the second thing is I've tried to make this video a number of different ways, and each time it's been shitty, and guys, don't worry, I know some of you guys will think this one is shitty too, but anyway, I figured, you know what, like, I can't get it right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just tell you guys how the fuck I feel. I'm going to just give you guys the real talk version, just me and you having a conversation about this. Now, anyway, guys, first thing I should do is explain the way that the legendaries are going to be different between now and Legion. Now, before they have the quest lines, like right now, you just do a very, very long quest line that spans through the entire expansion. At the end of it, you get a legendary item. Before that, you killed like the last boss in, like, let's say Black Temple or Sunwell or something like that. Like usually the last boss in an instance, and then that last boss will have a chance to drop an item that starts something that creates a legendary or something like that. Usually legendaries are either very, very long quest lines, or also they could be drops from like the last boss in an instance, or with things like Sulfuras, Hand of Ragnaros, they could be a little bit of both. Anyway, so you guys see how before legendaries they've always been a very big I guess like sense of envy. Like people have seen like legendary item. Like I'm pretty sure if you guys played back in Vanilla or Burning Crusade or anything like that, first time you saw somebody with a legendary, you might have like screenshotted them or like inspected them, be like, oh my god, where the fuck did you get that? Why does that have orange letters? So anyway, legendaries have always been a really, really big deal in Warcraft. So what they're changing in Legion now is that instead of getting a legendary item from Illidan, now you get it from a bear. Okay, now there's not a guarantee that you're going to get it from a bear. No. There's a random chance you can get it from pretty much anywhere out in the world. That's what we're kind of led to believe by what Blizzard has said about these legendary items. Now, I don't really think it's any surprise that Blizzard has tried to make the game more and more like Diablo 3 in terms of loot, which I've always felt has been a really, really strange decision, because Diablo 3 is probably one of the worst games I've ever seen at retaining players. And in a game like World of Warcraft that has a subscription model, that basically their business model is keeping people engaged in the game, doing anything like Diablo 3 where it has a huge hype and then it just dies off in like less than a month, which would, by the way, only be 1 month of subscription time, seems like a pretty bad idea. But that seems to be, it's what they're doing, okay? And guys, I don't really think it's a secret, okay? And I think that we should just be realistic here and say what's just obvious, okay? Is that Blizzard is trying to implement a lot more RNG and other types of elements of gameplay that are not guaranteed. They're trying to step away from like the thing where you farm a certain item, you level up, and you get all the way up to Exalted, and you buy a piece of gear. And now, we'll see what they're doing is, somebody in the forum said this, I don't remember who it was, I think it was another warrior, he said that pretty much now you're still farming up to Exalted, except for you don't have the bar. So you don't really know whenever you're going to be getting into these legendary items. It's completely random, and Blizzard has tried to it's very overtly so that they've tried to implement more and more RNG elements into the game while giving people more and more rewards, but having each of those rewards be less and less rewarding. So I consider this a very big disappointment, and I've talked about this a lot. I'm very upset about it. Hopefully they'll change it a little bit, but it seems to be like this is like a core element of the game that they're really trying to expand. And you guys remember back whenever 6.2 came out, they did that bullshit with the Ashran strong boxes where you could only get your best in slot gear from a strong box in Ashran. Well, a lot of people might not remember that, but I do, because it's just another element. And so they tried to say, this is the thing, is that they tried to say that a lot of players enjoyed the strong box system. Now, whenever I made a video about this, it had about 95% approval rating and 5% disapproval rating, and half of those people just telling me I looked like a beaver. So let's say that's only 2.5. So over 90% of people agreed with me, and of course, yes, this is my own audience, but let's go ahead and let's look on the general forums as well. On the general forums, there was a post with like 800 or like 1,000 or something like that upvotes talking about how everybody did not like the system that was being implemented into Ashran. And so whenever Blizzard turns around and says that some players do like the strongbox system, how is it possible that, and this is just like an element, I'm trying to like draw a parallel here. I hope that I'm not going off on a tangent at all here, guys. The thing is, like, a lot of people I think do not like these RNG elements, and so this is another time whenever an RNG element was put into the game that could affect players and hurt them in PvP, and people are very competitive in PvP, and so they don't want to be put at a disadvantage based on RNG. I didn't even read that many people who said that this was a good idea outside of Blizzard, and so what really, like, how are they really getting this information? And because if their internal testing is so much different and almost a night and day difference between the external feedback that they're getting from the community, maybe there's a problem with their internal testing, because you can see, I mean, Warlords of Draenor started out with 10 million subscribers, and now it's got less than 5. And don't even try and tell me that they got more after they decided to not release the subscription numbers and then say the game's not even going to come out until after the movie, which is on June 10th. It's a fucking disaster. But I mean, I'd be amazed if they even had 4 million at this point, especially with like a viewership on Twitch and everything. And so, and you think World of Warcraft is doing bad. Diablo 3 is doing even worse, and Diablo 3, it doesn't even really matter how well it's doing because they got your $60 for the game plus 40 for Reaper of Souls, so they don't care how long you play because they already got your money. But with WoW, they have to keep you playing, and making these RNG things where you just keep playing the slot machine over and over and over is not going to keep people engaged. It hasn't kept people engaged with Hellfire Citadel, and it didn't with Siege of Orgrimmar either, and it's just more and more RNG elements being put into the game, and these legendaries are pretty much the pinnacle of these RNG elements. Now, really, I think that anybody who's going to say that, well, first, right now, let me explain what the difference is. So now you guys can see pretty much where I'm coming from and how I feel about these RNG elements, if it wasn't obvious already. Now, Blizzard put out 2 different, I guess, like clarifications or rules that they're implementing on these legendary items. First rule is that in the first few weeks of whenever Mythic content is released or the raids are released, the legendary items, their affixes, will be disabled, and affixes are like, you get like a legendary item and it has like, okay, like I think it's like a prop paladin. No, it's a warrior one. It's a trinket where your execute can now be used at 35% health and below rather than just 20% health and below. So that's very, very good, especially for an arms warrior. So obviously any warrior that has that is going to be doing a lot more damage. And so they're taking those items out of the effectively out of the world first race. So whenever people are actually going for the world first kills, the RNG on legendaries is obviously not going to affect them. Obviously, also another thing that comes in with this is that if they think that people are not going to be able to farm out the items that they need in those 2 weeks, especially very, very hardcore players, you've got to think that these things are going to be pretty hard to get. And also, whenever Blizzard has said that there's going to be a way for you to target, farming these legendaries. So, like, let's say there's like a legendary that's like a Vicryl item. Okay, it's like a Vicryl helmet or something like that for warriors. Let's say you go over to Stormheim or something and you can kill the Vicryl guys and they have a higher chance of dropping it. I think that that's probably what it's going to be. That's very similar to how it was in Diablo 3. If you want to get the Butcher's Sickle, you can get it from any mob in the game, but if you kill the Butcher, you've got a higher chance of getting it. It's pretty obvious, right? In the first few weeks, they're not going to be, the legendary items are not going to work in raids. I think that is a good idea. And then also the second thing that they're doing is that they're making it to where whenever at the beginning of the expansion, whenever people were first starting to make their characters, you're only able to equip 1 legendary item at a time. Now, you can loot multiple legendary items, I'm assuming, but you're only able to have 1 on your character at one time. So that makes it to where if a person gets extremely lucky, right, and they get 3 legendary items, that's not just going to make them a god and way better than everybody else in the group, right? And so I think that is a good idea. But whenever I see all of these changes and everything like this, and all of these, all this fine print, and all of these little minor things that they're trying to do, it makes me wonder, like, what really is the, is the system really worth it or not? It's not even, the players haven't even begun to have to test these legendaries. Like, the game's not even in the beta, it's still in alpha, and they're already having to make these different clarifications, and fine print, and changes, and it just seems to be a contrived, convoluted system, and I think it's going to be a fucking disaster, to be honest with you guys. And I think that really the problem that the system is going to have is not as overtly obvious as something like the strong boxes is in PvP with Ashran 6.2. It's much more subversive and something that I think like a lot of developers probably don't pay attention to, and it's a problem that people have had, because I've seen a lot of people that I watch. I think Belura made a video about this a couple of days ago, and some other people have, and I kind of, like, whenever the Legendaries first came out, I kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt. I was like, alright, we'll see how this turns out, right? And the way it's turning out, it doesn't really seem like it doesn't really, I don't really think it's going to be going very well, and the more changes that I'm seeing in here, it just indicates that they're having problems balancing the Legendaries, and, you know, that they're really kind of trying to force this on players, and I don't really think it's good for the game. Now, the subversive changes and problems that I think this is going to cause are more of an emergent gameplay issue. Now, I've talked about this before. If you go try and join a fucking raiding guild without a legendary ring. Go try and join a raiding guild in Siege of Orgrimmar without the cloak. You're not going to be able to get into one. So really what this is going to do is it's going to make it to where if players don't have these legendary items, or they don't have a legendary item, they're not going to be able to get into groups. Now you say, oh, well, that's not how it was with Thunder Fury and like Warglaives or something like that. For one, that was like fucking 8 years ago, and like I'm talking about right now. This is happening to players right now. So I think that's really what's going to happen. Whenever these legendaries are put into the game, at a certain point, it's going to become more of a bonus. I guess like, it would be originally like a bonus. Oh wow, you know, this player is going to join our group, and he's got a legendary. And then it more and more as the expansion goes on and on and on, it's going to be, well, if you don't have a legendary, you can't join this group. And I think that that's what's going to happen, because that's exactly what's happened with the legendary cloak and also with the legendary ring. Now, it would just be stupid to think that that's not what's going to happen. And so people say that this system is going to be good for casual players. I think it's going to be the exact fucking opposite. I'm not going to have a problem, guys. I tell you the truth, I'm not going to have a problem killing bears for 18 hours a day to get my 35% execute trinket. It's going to be no big deal. I just do it because I've got a whole lot of time to play the game. But somebody who doesn't have all the time to play the game is going to be not only are they going to not be able to actually get these items that are going to make them do more damage, but they're going to be excluded and segregated out of groups and out of guilds because they don't have them. I don't see how this is good for casual players. And they say, well, maybe a casual player might get them. Yeah, maybe they might get them. It's the same as any other thing. Like, yeah, maybe you might get something, but that's completely, absolutely not. It's the same thing right now. Maybe somebody could get a 725 Warf or with socketed mythic dungeon item, but that's probably not going to happen. Especially if you're not doing mythic dungeons all the time. So what are the chances of somebody getting this legendary item if they're not more of a hardcore player? So, or at least if they are a casual player, I think general players will be able to farm this, but for players who are just kind of like, come and go, and they don't really play too seriously, I don't really think that Blizzard, I don't want to have like a bunch of catch-up mechanics in the game at one point, but I also don't want Blizzard to make it to where those players just really can't compete and can't get back into the game without doing something that's probably not going to be a lot of fun. Like, I'll kill the bears, but I'm probably not going to have a good time doing it. Now, I think that you guys can pretty much see where I'm coming from, and also the whole thing about it being legendary. I can't imagine anybody that would say that this is not spectacle creep. It's just, come on, guys. I mean, be real. Be real. I mean, like, we've had legendary items for the entire duration of World of Warcraft, and they've always fulfilled a certain purpose. Now you're going to completely change the paradigm and give people, everybody is going to get a couple of different legendaries. I don't really see how that's not spectacle creep, okay? And I don't really think that it's a very good idea, personally, and it kind of takes the value, and people say, oh, it's only a word, it's only a color. Well, that color has meant a certain thing for the entire duration of the game, and now you're going to change what that means just to basically make people feel like they're getting more stuff, because that's really what this is. I don't really... What the fuck is this? Like, I mean, I don't really see why they couldn't just make the name red, couldn't just make them really good epics or something like that. They compare the world drops, and this is a very false and a very bad comparison in my opinion because of the way that I think it's going to turn out. They compare the world drops that we were getting back in Burning Crusade or Vanilla or something like that, like Skullflame Shield, Hand of Edward the Odd, Freezing Band. I think those were some of the ones that they gave out as examples. The Hammer of Destiny, that one kind of sucked though. But anyway, like the really, really good level 60, level 50 to 60, level 70, level 80 epic BOEs. Well, for one, then they're comparing those items and how awesome it was to get one of those items to the legendary items that are going to be put into Legion. This is a completely false comparison, and I think that anybody that actually remembered and played the game and can even just look at the items right now would know that it's ridiculous. For one, the items that we got back then were BOE. Okay, that's a huge difference. All right, if you didn't get Hand of Edward the Odd, you could go kill Nether Rays out in Netherstorm for 5 hours or 20 hours or whatever, and farm up enough gold to get the Hand of the Edward the Odd. There was a guaranteed path of getting what you needed. With this, there's no guaranteed path. I'm assuming that they're not going to be BOE. It would be pretty fucking hilarious to see legendary items on the auction house, but I'm sure maybe in a couple expansions we'll see that too. But anyway, on top of that, those legendary items, you look at Hand of Edward the Odd, I believe that was a level, I think that was either a level 70 or level 80 trinket. And so if it was a level 80 trinket that I remember, or one of the Jeetsy's Bell, or a couple of the other level 80 trinkets that we got whenever the game came out, how awesome it was to get those, it wasn't. It was just like, okay, now I have a really good piece of gear. It was item level 200. It was 200 gear. That's the same level as the 5-man epic drops at the end of the heroics and Nax 10-man. These items were not these game-changing, amazing things that people got and they had for the entire expansion. That just wasn't even how it was. Even if you didn't get one of those BOE items, and most people didn't, it didn't make a difference. With these legendary items, it will make a difference. If any of the affixes, and those are like the bonus effects that they give, is anything similar to what actually comes out on live, it will be a huge difference. And just by the way that I've been in pugs, I've seen pugs and everything like that, I just, without a shadow of a doubt, I think that it's going to be, if you don't have the legendary items, you're not going to be able to get into guilds. If you don't have the legendary items, you're not going to be able to get into really good pugs. And people say, well, back in the day, you had attunements. Okay, so you could compare the legendary items to attunements, which is, again, a complete bullshit comparison, because attunements, like if you were trying to get attuned to Black Temple, go kill Vashj, go kill Kayle, you're attuned. It's very obvious. It might be very hard to do. Most people never did it, but there's a very easy and very direct path to doing it, and also you have to actually do raids to get farther in raids. I don't really see the purpose in killing bears to get farther in raids, and I don't really think that's a bad thing, you know, in like a certain level, but whenever you have to kill bears to get up there in the raids, because like you're going to need those legendary items, as I said. There's no way, guys, that it's going to be 2 or 3 months into this expansion and people aren't going to be getting declined from raiding guilds because they don't have the legendary items. And I think that's just going to be, a fucking tragedy, guys. And it's going to keep more players out of the raiding scene. The raiding scene is already getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more cliquey and more of a niche and everything like that. And I think that raiding should only be one small part of the game. There should be many parts of the game, but raiding is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller because of the things that they're doing to try and get more people into raiding have ended up making them, like excluding them from raiding because of what kind of comes out of them with emergent gameplay. And that's what I'm kind of seeing is going to happen with these Legion legendaries. Now, again, I don't really know. Of course, I don't really know. I can't really, I'm not like Nostradamus, you know, I'm not a wizard. I can't remember, not remember, but I can't know in the future what's really going to happen. No, of course, I have no idea. But what I do know is what has happened for the previous 2 expansions, and if people don't have a class trinket, they're not invited. So it's not just a legendary only thing. I mean, this is a consistent thing, a consistent problem with making items that are extremely hard to get and just completely RNG based, and then making them and giving them out to enough people to where it becomes a requirement for raiding rather than a reward into raiding or reward or for whatever you're doing. So anyway, guys, I've been kind of like, I don't know, I thought that the items were going to be okay, the legendary items were going to be alright, and then the more that I see, the more changes that I see, like all of these, like different clarifications and extra rules that are being added on, it just makes me think that Blizzard themselves doesn't really know exactly how these are going to work, and I don't really know what they should do. I mean, should they shit can the whole idea? I mean, well, it doesn't really matter if they should or not, because it's not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. As I said, guys, they're dead set on making these RNG elements. They're making all PvP gear RNG based. They're continuing the Warforged system and everything like that with no way to get Warforged, at least they haven't said so far, into Legion. It's fucking full steam ahead with the RNG, loot train. And I'm disappointed. Okay, I really am. and I think it's going to take the fun out of it for a lot of people. You know, a lot of times people would play this game and they could come home and they could say, fuck man, if I kill 50 boars for 50 hours, I could get a piece of gear. But now you could kill 50 boars for 500 hours and not get anything. And I think that, you know, taking away that that sense of real progression and that players are really influencing and have agency and control over their own destiny really makes people feel like they're not really playing a game, but they're playing a fucking slot machine. And it just seems like more and more what we're seeing now. It's really disappointing. Hopefully they can make these legendaries connected to something where you can actually farm them out. It does take actual effort and time, and they can still be rewarding and players can still get something out of them. But it doesn't really seem like that to me. You know, it sucks, but that's where it is. So people have been asking me about legendary items while I think about them. That's what I think, okay? Just, there it is, okay? I don't know. Is it going to be okay? Probably not. Probably not. Probably won't be. I just don't really think so. Because just what they're saying. It just doesn't, I just don't think it will. But we'll see what happens. Of course, I'll be showing you guys the items whenever they come out on the beta or the alpha, and you know, things will evolve from here. But this is what we're seeing right now. These were good changes, but I think that if a system needs that many changes and that many limitations on it, there comes into question whether that system in itself is even a good one to begin with. I think that Blizzard should take chances and take, you know, like do things that are out of the ordinary, and they're absolutely right that you know, a seven haste upgrade is not as rewarding as like a, you know, a clash trinket upgrade. They're completely right. But what also is not rewarding is randomly killing a boar and then getting an item that's amazing. Like there's no reward because there's no correlation between what you did and what you got. If you can't tell somebody they're a winner, okay? They have to feel that way. And the game used to make people feel like they were winners, and I don't think this will. So lots of reasons why I don't think it's a good idea. A couple of reasons why I think it is, but it seems like they're really emphasizing the reasons that I think it's not a good idea. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm curious, and maybe there'll be a change, but again, I'm not really expecting it. So, thank you very much for watching, and like, comment, and subscribe.